Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with New York City Jazz Vibraphonist, composer, and producer Simon Moullier. We caught up with him in southern France, prepping for a few gigs as the world begins to open up. He talked about his life in music, his newest 2021 CD with his trio called Countdown, and a life in music that has taken him around the world, playing with a host of legends and luminaries. Besides his work as a performer, he is also an educator. He spent many hours doing community outreach in Cuba, Indonesia, Panama, and India. His story is a fascinating one. Enjoy. Thanks for taking a minute out. I appreciate it.
No problem.
I really enjoyed this latest album with your trio, Countdown. It's just a very nice sonic ride. And I want to talk to you a little bit about this coming out during the pandemic and everything that's been going on. Talk to me a little bit about, the timing of this and how you feel about it now that it's out.
Well, I feel great. I think the three of us feel really grateful that we were able to put out this music and record during this very difficult and challenging period in all of our lives, I think. But this repertoire is not, we didn't write this repertoire in 2020. We've been playing it for maybe 2 or 3 years tops. I wrote some of these arrangements maybe 2 years ago, like 2 years and a half. We had a residency in the Jazz at Lincoln Center in Dizzy's Club. So for that occasion, it was my first kind of big, long week to play trio. So I was like, I think it's a great moment and a great opportunity for me to write arrangements for that lineup and for that setup. And because, trio vibes, it can easily be sonically boring, in my opinion, because, it's like, it's not as full as a piano or as a saxophone. So it's like, I felt that I kind of wanted to take the challenge and write arrangements to make the vibraphone sound fuller. You know what I'm saying? That's how these arrangements came about in the beginning. And so I was trying to find, the best keys for the arrangements, the best, the chord structures on my end. So a lot of the work came from the way I practiced, and then I dispatched it, or like, that's probably not a good word, but what's the word? Then I divided it between the vibes and the bass to try to find a balance. That's how, for example, the Countdown arrangement came about. A lot of the stuff that the bass is playing is the stuff that my left hand is playing, which makes it sound more like a piano trio. And, so we started having fun with that.
What do you ultimately want the listener to get from this album? How do you want them to feel about it? It's a very personal statement. There's tributes, and there's a lot of really good stuff going on. How do you want them to feel about this?
I want them to feel the same way you felt. I kind of like that expression you just said, a nice sonic ride. Because I actually like sound more than I like music sometimes, Like, sound is so important in everything, every music that we listen to. Like, every instrumentalist or singers I'm going to listen to they usually have an incredible sound from the get-go, So, like, if you listen to Train, if you listen to Charlie Parker, Monk even has a sound that's like very angular and all that stuff. And then Stan Getz, it's like these type of sound. But like, I saw a movie on Billie Holiday the other day, a documentary, and the sound of her voice, like every note is just like, it has a specific weight. That's what I'm looking for also, no matter if it's in my own playing or within a band or within a CD, within a concert, whenever I'm sitting down, I'm not really thinking about what scales or how killing the solos are or whatever. When I'm listening to a show, I'm trying to find vibrations, and vibrate within what's going on, That's what human beings resonate the most with, It's vibrations between each other. And so when you're sitting down at a opera show or Latin music, jazz, rock and roll, whatever it is, it's like, they're just series of vibrations that we resonate with, and I think when I make a CD, I'm really thinking about that almost as a producer does, and I did the same thing with Spirit Song. The first album, I was trying to make it a really nice sonic ride, like to have variations within the tempos, within the keys, within the universes. All that for me is part of composition, and it's not just like harmony, melody, and rhythm. It's also the vibe that's within the song. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Yeah. So I want to kind of go back in time to where all this began. Talk to me about where you were born and raised and how the vibes became your life.
I was born in Paris, in the suburb of Paris, and then I mainly grew up in the city called Nantes. It's in Brittany, west of France. It was a conservatory, and I did a lot of classical music for about 12 years. I played the drums for maybe 10 years. Because I play classical music, I was exposed to, a lot of, marimba, xylophone, vibraphone, snare drum, timpani, orchestra, modern percussion, contemporary, all that stuff, So it was very cool to kind of get familiar with the instruments and becoming a percussionist, And becoming a percussionist was like an important aspect of what I do today, I think, in terms of like that the rhythm is very important, especially in this music. So I became more interested in the vibes when I moved to Berkeley, because I applied to Berkeley as a drummer, but then there was so many drummers, and I did like a summer camp there. In the summer camp, I kind of discovered vibes. I finally started to understand a little bit, but I had to I had to start from scratch, because I didn't know anything about harmony, anything about melody. I didn't know what a blues was. It was just it was really starting from the bottom. And but I had all the drum stuff behind. Also, since I'm a kid, my mom exposed me to Robert Johnson, like blues a lot, and then also like a lot of like James Brown, Earth, Wind and Fire, Michael Jackson, a lot of African American music, which was always around, and obviously Coltrane, Miles Davis, a lot of Miles, a lot of Monk, a lot of Bud Powell, and then and then from that on, I just went on my own, and Chick Corea, Herbie Hancock. Yeah, Herbie and Chick were both like very huge influences. Not as much as Coltrane was, or Freddie Hubbard, because I was always stunned, is probably a word I would use, by it, and just like mesmerized by what horn players were able to do. Horn players, or even just singers. Like sometimes I would sing myself solos, and I would be like, man, I wish I could play like the way I just sing. Because voices and horn players have this incredible expression ability that is kind of limited on vibes and piano, but which is why it's a cool challenge. But by trying to imitate them, and by kind of failing at imitating them, you kind of stumble upon a new way of expression, sort of.
The one thing about, you mentioned you have a couple gigs coming up, and the world's kind of starting to wake up, and live gigs are happening. How did you do over the pandemic, and how relieving is it to actually have live shows now?
It's funny you say that. Two nights ago, I went to see a live show in Paris, like in a club. I just sat down like any other, audience member. I paid my ticket. I sat down on the chair, and it felt incredible, man. I was just like, yeah, man. I'm like here to see people play. They've rehearsed. I'm here. I'm like listening. I'm grateful for being a part of this experience. And I really wasn't feeling, as a musician, I was feeling as just a human being getting to see other people play. It was like, it was a beautiful experience, man. And then you kind of forgot how to, to behave also sometimes in those, and you forget how cool it is, to just be able to enjoy music. I'm very excited about that, and also, I can't wait to be able to play with some of my closest friends that that I haven't seen in a long time. To never stop learning. I would say that would be it. It's just, for me, I like being a musician because it really reflects also being a human. Just like in general, we're just trying to get better. I mean, even some of my family members who are not musicians, they're in their lives, their whole point is kind of just to live as good as they can and just get better people every day. just like I'm not really a fan of the idea of staying in one place and stagnating. You know, like just like I like to move forward and to try different things and to try different directions and to meet new people. You know, to fail again, maybe to one success and then to fail again and et cetera, et cetera. But like overall, when you look back, it's like it's moving forward, and that's for me that's the symbol, and you know, it's the symbol of growth. You know, I think growth and growing as human beings all together is like it's a very really powerful thing. You know.
So you've been on stage or recorded with some pretty heavy cats like Herbie, Wayne Shorter, Jimmy Heath, Kendrick Scott, Mark Turner. What have you learned from these veterans and stars in the world of jazz that have in turn helped you with younger players that you're around?
Just to put things back in perspective, I didn't really share like touring with Herbie and Wayne and like I was in the Monk Institute in which was an institute with 7 musicians, and I was one of them, and we were able to be mentored by these people, which is this mentorship was extremely special, and I was able to learn so much from it because they're people I admire so much since I'm a very young. I mean, since a very young age, and it's just like you just learn not just by asking questions, but by just being around, just watching it, looking at them, being them. It's it's powerful, and I was just like just being around their energy is the shit. It's like you want to be like them. You're like, oh man, they're so giving. Their energy is so giving and warm and generous. Even though they're such badass, at what they do, and they've had so much experience, and they, and you see some musicians today, or even not just musicians, but like just artists in general, having an ego and like just being like, not like, or like just being kind of like snobbish, and then I'm like, man, how can you be snobbish if these people are not? It's like they're like they're just like the top of the top, and they're like still wanting to learn. They're still listening to kids. They're still reaching for new grounds and things like that, and still practicing, still writing. I love that. It's just like, for me, that's so inspiring, and I always want to do that. For as long as I live, I just want to be in that kind of realm, or at least just try. So, to sum up your question, this is what these people have brought me in. And that I've kind of learned from it. And there's a lot of things that I've seen and that I probably still haven't digested, or because these people give you, they give you food for thought for years and years and years. Even just listening to their music after meeting them, it was just like so much enlightening, and I was like, I felt like I saw the music differently.
So everyone has an idea or a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, your students, but you're the one that's living your life. Who do you think you are?
Right. You prepared that question, huh?
Yeah.
I can feel it.
Yes.
Like, all right, let's go.
Right, yes.
Man, who do I think I am? I'm also scared of thinking too much, because if you start getting too much into that, that's how to go. It's just like, I don't know, you start to, overanalyze and being a little too critical about, who you are. And, whenever I hear myself, like, for example, speaking on a recording, most people are going to say, oh, I hate my voice and shit, like this kind of stuff. But then, when I listen to myself play, this is really what I try to do as knowing who I am, is listening to myself play and to my form of expression on the instrument. This is what I work on the most, I would say. So like, I'll record something that I'm practicing, and I'll listen back on the train or on the plane or on the bus or walking in the street. And this is a way of practicing becoming a better me, like I'm just like, this is cool, but this is, more hearing it like this, so I'm going to try to reach for that kind of thing. or like I'm gonna hear something cool that I didn't know was cool when I played it, and I was like, oh, okay, this is something nice that I should come back on. Or the opposite, you know, like, oh, this is something bad that I thought was cool, so I'll ditch it out of my playing, etc. And it's the same thing, you know, as becoming a better human. You know, it's like, all right, well, see, I fucked up here because I lied to someone, and then I feel bad, so I shouldn't do that, etc., etc. So I think this is who I am, and I'm just trying to. Who I am is someone with a lot of bad sides. And I'm just trying to balance it out and do the best I can to make the people around me, you know, happy, and also keep my own direction and my own boat going, and being flexible with the different things coming at me in life. You know, for example, I don't know, meeting someone and being open to you know, love.
Yeah.
That's all these things are part of life, and it's like, and they're just things that life is throwing at you. You're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Shit, what am I doing now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
And so it's difficult, and I'm having, you know, difficulty like everyone else. I'm not, like, sometimes I feel like, as people, when we listen to music, or like, for example, like when I first listened to all these jazz musicians, I was like, man, they're amazing. And I was idolizing them in a place in my head where they had no problems. Like, they were just in a godly place. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, wow, Herbie is like, oh man, Herbie is just Herbie. He doesn't have the same problems I have. No, he's just Herbie. You know,
yeah.
He's just killing. Dot. Period. And then I was like, or like even Miles or whatever. And then when I met some of them, or just read biographies or stuff like that, I was like, wait a minute, they had a shit ton of problems. They were like, you know, all kind of life problems, you know. And so, even though the problems we have nowadays are probably some are different, but a lot of them are the same, you know. They're just like the basic life struggles, you know.
Yeah.
Like loss, you know, family, heartbreaks, all this shit like makes life worth living. You know, even though I'm very unexperienced in life because I'm only 27 years old, I wouldn't know much about it. But I just know that it's the way I want to approach it, at least for now.
Hey, man, that's a great answer. A great way to wrap everything up. Thank you for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz today, man. I appreciate it.
Man, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in France, New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Simon for his time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.